Gilmer County up there, that's the marble capital of Georgia, they claim. There's a lot of marble up there. And I just haven't had a chance. I'm going to go down and get some what they call raw marble. That's not raw. That's been pressed and polished. But I'm going to try to get a piece while we're up there this time.
Yes.
Okay, now we're going to talk about extinctions. But we're going to talk about that next. Yeah, we're going to talk about that next on Thursday. Okay, and see, I've kept it down. It's just about an hour and 20 minutes. So by now, everybody's getting kind of tired. I'm watching Daryl go to sleep there. Okay, questions. Anybody have any questions? If you got questions, oh, one more thing. This is my little sample thing. If you're into rocks, Daryl's going to cry because she hates me to give away anything. But this is a set of rocks here, and this shows you. Whoops. This shows you an unpolished piece and a polished piece. Okay, and it tells you right here what they are. Okay, there's a different rocks, polished and unpolished, or it's vice versa. I can't see it from here, but everybody can help yourself and pick out a couple of rocks that you like, because if you don't get them, the school kids will, believe me. They'll clean that rock thing out by the time it goes past 2 feet. Okay, anything else? Any other questions? Anybody have any questions? Or yes?
You were talking about clay earlier, and where I live north of town, there's a lot of clay, and it's still that wet stuff that's moldable. You can, it looks like you bought it in the store for clay model.
Yeah.
And that stuff's all over the place.
Yeah.
At what point does that turn into the harder? Is it pressure, or is it just dries out?
It just dries out. Basically, it dries out. If you pull that clay out and set it out and just let it dry, you'll get cracks. You'll see cracks all across the surface, and that's where the water is coming out and it's shrinking. Right. Now you can do the same thing if you take your hands and knead it, and you can get the water to come out and it will dry faster. When she does her pottery and stuff, I sometimes play with the clay a little bit, and actually I have tried to get water to come out under pressure, and I can't. It won't come out. I've tried using a hydraulic press and everything to press some water out, and for some reason I can't get much water out. But if you have any of that clay, if you get me a shovel of that clay, I would love to have that. Just a piece of it. Yeah, well, just a little bag or something, because I want to look at it. One of the things I'm contemplating getting into a program where I can get back to my equipment. I don't have any equipment now. I retired, and the equipment I use is usually only available in the universities or in the government labs or something. But I would love to do some analysis on some clay and then look at these pieces of pottery and try to get the trace analysis, because if we took your clay beds and we took enough of the pottery from places around here, I could get a fingerprint and I could match the clay up. Now, most of my buddies that run these reactors, and it's called Neutron activation analysis, and I wrote several papers on it. We did a body analysis of people up in Maryland that were buried in 1660 something, 1670. The woman died from arsenic poisoning, and I was able to prove that because we had her hair and some of her bone tissue. And I took it all around the country to different universities and had them back up my data, basically peer-reviewed data. And she was died from arsenic poisoning because arsenic was a brand new drug back then. And she had an abscess, a broken abscess. Her leg was broken like that, and it was abscessing. And they were trying to treat the abscess. They were doing it with arsenic, and they didn't realize it was poison. And we found significant. I mean, we found thousands of parts per million, literally thousands of parts per million in her hair, and and in some of the tissue, some of the dead tissue from the body that we took. And that's going to be published. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a guy named Doug Osley. He's with the Smithsonian. He had an office right above hers. She had an office here. He was the next floor up, and I got to know him on that project-led conference in Maryland. And he's doing a paper. I just don't want to write another book. I don't want to write a book now. So Doug is taking all my data. He's going to incorporate it in a book that he's going to be publishing sometime in the next 5 years about the lead coffins. And in there, all the neutron activation analysis data is going to be in there, and that's the same way you fingerprint these pieces of pottery. You get the trace elements in there, and you get the right ratios, and then you can do that.
What is it that forms clay?
It's actually silt. It's like a It's small particles of whatever rock you can. There's different kinds. She could probably tell you
It's
that.
just real fine rock.
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
just real super
really
fine rock. And why you've got a little bit of it in Florida. Florida was a catch basin for all of the lower Alleghenies, all the mountains. Okay, flushed down here. Okay, they came down along the Mississippi, came out into the Gulf and up this way. And then as Florida came up, the wash coming out of Georgia, North Carolina, all up in there, the very fine particles would flow first. Okay, and they would get down here, and they would flow the best. And then all of a sudden the water would stop. The heavier particles would float right out, and the clay particles would come on down a little bit, and then they would get trapped down there, and then over thousands and millions of years, that sediment built up, and that's clay. That's the super fine particles. What we used to do, we'd show the kids, give them a handful of dirt, and you get one of these glasses, with glass jars. It's narrow, a little narrow glass jar, and with a lid on it, and you just take a handful of dirt or two and put it in there and shake it up. Shake, 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 and then set it down in a window or something. We haven't set them in the windows where they can see where it settles down, and you can see all the big stuff's at the bottom, a little bit, littler and littler, till you get up to the very top, and it's just silt. And that's your clay. That's where the clay comes from.
There's like on my property, the clay is up top, and if you go down like 7 feet, you run into like all the seabed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the clay is from where it was washed, the alluvial.
All aboard.
I keep looking out to see that locomotive coming over my shoulder. I keep thinking, is that really just a clock? But anyway, that's how it basically works, and it can be. The soil is made up of all different kinds of minerals and stuff.
Well, wasn't there a rumor not too long ago that Georgia wanted her soil back?
Yeah.
Come get
Sue
it,
the
right?
state of Florida
Okay,
get her soil back?
Come get
This is all of the rock forming elements. Okay, that's what this chart's called. There's some elements in here that's not, some of our elements. This is your atomic number this way. This is the abundance, how many atoms are there per each thing. And uranium here happens to hit 1. But as you go up, these are your elements. And so they combine in all different forms. You can have calcites, you can have all kind of oxides, all kind of sulfates, all kind of phosphates. I mean, there's just too many for me to even talk about it. But every one of those things has a different structure. Okay, and therefore, and especially when they mix and form larger molecules, then they change. They just change drastically. And the ones that are small particles, that's the ones that becomes your clay. I guess I've looked at probably 100, maybe 200 clay samples, and not 2 of them have been alike. I've got 2 of them that are even really what I would call close, because we used to play with her to be able to prove that the clay coming out of the St. Mary's River was the same clay that the Indians had there with the old pottery, the old artifacts. The problem was Maryland is a really weird state, and I'm glad I'm from Maryland. I'm from Maryland. I was born and raised in Virginia, moved to Maryland, went to work for the government, retired, and left Maryland as quick as I could, because Maryland has all kind of really weird laws. They brought all these Yankees in from way up north, and I think they got the most liberal ones they could find, and they collected in Maryland. I think Virginia put up a border there and stopped them from coming down, and it was just like the clay, that it settled out, right? But they have all these laws, and it was just too difficult to try to deal with the artifact laws and stuff like that. So we basically gave up, because sometimes if you put something on display, then you have to prove where it came from. Florida's getting bad. Florida's almost as bad, but they're only worried about things on state lands. Well, here's an arrowhead. How do you know where this arrowhead came from? Okay, did it come from state lands, or did it come from Farmer Joe's field out there? Okay, I mean, so there's no common sense. We as a people have lost our common sense. We don't do anything anymore that makes any common sense. we've carried the stuff to the extremes. I'm sorry, I don't want to get on a thing. I'm having a hard enough time with her and her flat Earth theory, so I don't need any more. I don't need any more of that for tonight. Okay, any questions? Any more questions? Anything you want to ask? Now's the time to do it.
Okay, do the Germans have a base at Antarctica?
Yes. Actually, they're part of the. I think the
No, the
Germans.
Nazis.
Oh, the Nazis. No, the Nazis don't. I have not been to Antarctica. I was supposed to go to Antarctica, and I wound up with the flu so bad that I nearly died. So I sent the sergeant. Instead, they had a big thing going on. You know, who would give me the most to send them? But no, Sergeant was really good about bringing that back. He didn't have to do that. But you know, as near as I know, they don't. And also, I don't believe that. What was it? Which one flew under the poles, Leslie? You're the one that flew into the hole of the pole.
Oh, bird.
Bird, yeah. I've never seen that, any proof of that either.
Okay.
I don't know, this is probably not the place to
So
tell
we
you.
know you're a government troll now.
Yeah, right. This is probably not the place to tell you guys this, but I also am a consulting scientist. Actually, I'm a field investigator for MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network.
Okay.
They're the ones that put on Hangar 1 or whatever it is.
Right.
Well, I'm about ready to retire from that because that's gotten a little hokey. But when they have a really bad one, they call me because I'm really good at figuring out what they saw. Like this one woman saw that every night she saw these aliens landing on this mountain right across the little valley from her house. And those aliens was Venus. And finally, when I figured it out, she was looking at the Venus through the trees. And of course, it gives you that funny look, you know. And on her video camera, I knew something when it was going from red to blue to red to blue because it was giving hysteresis in the lens on the Vidicom. And I told her, I said, okay, well, I'm going to convince you. I'm going to tell you exactly what time they're going to come there tomorrow. And knowing the time that came there the 2 days before, I told her within about a minute and a half of when it was going to come through, and sure enough, it did. So then I get to something, well, I should have believed you the first time. But anyway, you know, just things like that. And so she's seen UFOs and stuff. I don't see anything. She does weird things. She talks to trees. You ever hear about that? It talks to trees.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, she talks to trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they tell her the storms. Anytime that we were up in Georgia, anytime we want to know that there's a snowstorm coming, I ask her, I said, go talk to the tree. And about 50% of the time, she's right.
Wow, pretty good.
Well, you notice I said 50%. Okay, well, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And here again, we'll have to thank the Hernando Historical Society and for having a fruitcake like me here in the first place. But then in the Withlacoochee Rockhounds, you know, for helping out. They didn't actually do a whole lot, but I'm here. Gary and I are here because of them.
You know this?
Yes, and you. True, I forgot. And you, I forgot. I keep forgetting this. When you get up here and you start staring out there at people, your mind does funny tricks. Like you guys keep changing shapes and forms. Okay.
Shapeshifters.
All right. If there's nothing else, if you want to play with this a little bit.